morning, everybody. Yes, yet another discussion of AI, but however, this one is going to be in a different angle from some of the things we've talked about in the past, specifically about customer experience and AI and operations and in ways of improving the business. And I'm pleased to have with me today Josh. And Josh, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
First of all, thanks for having me. I always love coming to this event. It's got a great organization that's behind it. And so I'm happy to support it. And I'm happy that Verizon lets me come and support an event like this. My name's Josh Arensberg. I play a very interesting role. I talk a lot about the fact that I think I have a dream job within Verizon. I do a lot to connect our customers, our partners, and the entire organization together. I lead our sports, media, and live experiences. Sometimes we say live events. Sometimes I just go with technology. But really what I do is I connect the dots a lot for the organization because the organization, as we all know, is in that telecom space. And the media side of that space is so prolific. It's so important. And so it's something that we spend a lot of time on.
Great. Thank you, Josh. We were also supposed to have been joined by Hani El-Malki from Google Fiber. Unfortunately, his plane was not able to get in last night, so he's unable to make it today. But we're looking forward to having this discussion.
Yeah, to our conversation.
Yeah. And I want to do a little bit of stage setting first. At Omdia, we look at, there's roughly 4 different quadrants that we can put the AI opportunity into in terms of what network operators can do with the technology to monetize. And the part that I cover in my day job tends to be commercial AI services and the revenues that you can get from that from enterprises. That piece of it, actually, we believe revenue-wise is the smallest opportunity of the kind of 4 different components. And the reason it's exciting is because you get to see people signing checks, and you know that always gets people excited. However, the immediate opportunity that we see for AI and the highest value opportunity is in this operational space, in improving the customer experience, in creating smoother operations, streamlining the business, basically improving the way that operators work. So, Josh, can you tell me a little bit about what you do with your operations, what sorts of requirements you have as a network provider, and how you use AI in your business to improve the business?
Sure. I'll talk about how I even use it personally. So I feel like we were all waiting for this moment where we were all going, listen, we are hearing a lot of people talking about AI, and I was myself going on my own journey to learn AI and learn what it is. And I have to admit, I feel it's one of these moments where I become one of those people who, when, maybe a year ago, you were watching on stage and they were just telling you how incredible this thing is and how amazing. And I feel like now I'm one of those people because I'm using it every day and I can't believe it. All right. Do you hear what I said? Like it's literally, as I've said to my leadership, the most incredible set of tools that I've ever been given in my career. And I have a career that, is across News Corp and Discovery and Comcast. And right now, this set of tools that Verizon is making accessible to its employees to go change how Verizon operates, to go change how Verizon delivers for its customers is nothing short of dramatic. For me, it's been this amazing journey where I'm now, dragging and dropping stuff into a command line. A lot of you in the room probably remember the days of terminals, right? Remember the days of doing text entering and look at that and say, hey, listen, I never need to go back to that moment in time. We've now have this great world where you can move a mouse. But I can tell you right now, some of the tools that I am using are terminal-based. And I am dragging and dropping images into a terminal window. I am having it look at things and make decisions and do stuff that I never thought was going to be possible. So I guess one of the things I really want to say here is that take a minute. I know you probably have played with some of the tools, but really make sure that you're on that journey. It is a transformational journey. It is going to take time to play and learn. And what I say to people, including within Verizon, is you need to experience it yourself. You need to try different tools, because you're going to find that different tools give you different results. And that is what makes, everybody's experience with AI, pretty incredible. The way that we right now are absorbing information, AI is really helping us kind of transform the business to really be a customer-centric, customer-focused. And so I'll share one of the interesting things we did in the last year. So a year ago, there's a National Association of Broadcasters convention, and at this show, we showed AI being used to, I'll kind of set it up, being used to detect the best video. Now, what I have found is that for unstructured data, AI is a great way to ingest video and create structured information out of it. If you were at CES this year, you'll see that there's cameras everywhere, and it's an easy way to bring in information into AI models and then structure it and organize it. So what we did at the National Association of Broadcasters convention is we had a challenge where a lot of broadcasters, they have what can be 50, 60, 70 video feeds all coming in to a production truck where they're trying to make a decision on which camera to select. And when you have so many video feeds in these environments coming in, it seemed like a natural place to take an AI, benefit. And so what we did is, using natural language, we said, hey, follow the jockey. This was a horse race. Follow the jockey with a red bib, number 63, and highlight the video that sees this jockey. And what that did is we then implemented that for a horse race that we partnered with FanDuel on, because they do lots of horse racing. And so that horse race ended up literally picking the best cameras that would be able to show the best video. Now, why is that important to an audience, to you guys, right? Why is that important here? Well, you know what we also did? We allocated more bandwidth to the cameras that were selected. And so that meant that we could be very bandwidth, we'll call it spectral efficient, with what we were doing over 5G to bring these cameras in. In the environment at the show, we set up a private 5G network. And on this private 5G network, we had a whole bunch of video cameras that we were showing how these video cameras, when it saw the jockey, could allocate more spectrum to create higher video quality. And if it didn't see anything, or it wasn't the right shot, then it didn't need to allocate all that spectrum. So think about the model where not only are we highlighting the video, but we're taking it one step farther, where we're actually saying, hey, this content, we're going to give it more bandwidth so that it can have higher quality and bring that in. Now, we did that in partnership with NVIDIA. We did that where we were locally supporting a large language model there on site. And in a few minutes, I'll give another example of how, although we have more connectivity in our pockets than we've had, in ever. I think you would all agree that there's more connectivity now on your cell phone than probably you have at home. And so we've crossed this threshold where connectivity is no longer the challenge, and it really comes down to how can you leverage that connectivity to deliver these kind of new and unique services. So that's a lot there. But there you go, Brian.
That's a fantastic start, and it validates some of the assumptions that we've had. For those of you who were here earlier when Ronan de Rennes showed the traffic growth patterns. There's two things that we've got our big bets on. One is video processing, cognitive analytics, and the other one is future media, new kinds of media experiences. And you've just demonstrated one that crosses both of those boundaries. But talking about this and taking it back to customer experience, because we're talking about venues and events, who is your customer in these cases? And can you kind of give us a lay of the land, kind of a map of who you need to pay attention to and what sort of expectations they have and where AI fits in?
Yeah, that's great. So the customers are exactly who you would expect them to be. They're the large media companies who are producing live sports. You know, there's this macro trend right now in the media industry, as you guys all, I'm sure, are watching to some extent, which is there's basically live and sports that are drawing, consumption of content right now. And so if we can help deliver both of these two ecosystems, the live and the sports, then basically we can really leverage what Verizon has built for its 5G network. And then we can leverage a really pretty great skill set that Verizon has developed over a number of years around venues. I like to think, and of course I'm biased, that Verizon really has gone in and done a huge amount in the venue space to make sure that the consumer experience is top notch, but is to really work with the venue to make sure that the back of house, that the comms, that the point of sale, that the ticketing, the turnstiles, are all functioning in a way so that you don't have to run a huge amount of cable. I call it decabling the venue, right? And that goes into this concept of a new last mile. We've all, for our careers, have heard about last mile. That last mile has been either fiber or copper. Maybe for a period of time it was microwave. But now that new last mile is really 5G, right? And you can do a tremendous amount with that last mile. So inside these venues, we are now looking at spatial multiplexing, beam steering. We're doing a lot inside those venues, and Verizon's making that investment so that the consumer who comes into that venue is going to be able to have a great experience. And one of the things that I found really interesting is this year at the Super Bowl, there was more upload than download. Now, that's the first time we've ever seen that. And why is that? Because remember, that live and sports combo, but either one of these, live or sports, draws people to view. And so even when you think about the Twitches of the world and you think about these people who create their own audience experiences, those audience experiences, the way they create them is they're in the venue, they are live streaming, they're putting stuff out to their own audience. And it's really incredible and prolific. And that's where we're seeing the growth, right? We're seeing this growth. But to answer your question, it's exactly who you'd expect. It's the broadcasters, it's the venue operators, and it's the leagues, all really wanting to make sure that they can deliver a differentiated experience for their fans, but also at these venues.
Yeah, and one of them signs the checks, and the other ones you need to make sure that they're happy in order to kind of keep that stream of revenue going up, so that Verizon keeps coming back to the events. That's fantastic. Great. One thing that you've brought up, well, I guess in terms of the AI that's required to do these different pieces, you've got, or the way that we classify AI, I know there's different ways of looking at it, but we look at it in terms of what the platform's trying to do and where it's being hosted. So some things you can do public, some things need to be private, some are large language, some need to be small language, you've got agentic, analytic, generative, AI in operations, predictive AI. So these are all kind of different ways with different functionality.
Yeah.
How does that fit into?
Yeah, let's go back to the use case I had mentioned earlier. This one where you have horse race. You've got these cameras. Okay, so we recently partnered with Fox Entertainment. Fox Entertainment had a production that's called Extracted. It's a TV show. I don't know, has anybody in here ever seen this TV show, Extracted? Okay, so this TV show is a competition elimination show. And what they do is they put 12 contestants out in the middle of nowhere. In this example, they put 12 contestants out. It was in a forest in Canada, okay? And so we set up a private 5G network because they had no comms, they had nothing. There was no cellular. They really struggled with the ability to, communicate even within themselves, the production itself. The challenge that Fox faced is, how do you track a whole bunch of people in a 7 square mile area for a production of a show? We all know that with connectivity, with with this what we call remote production, which we saw come out of COVID, there's a huge move to maybe you don't need to send as many people on these productions. How can you leverage AI? How can you leverage private 5G? How can you leverage all of this technology together? So for Extracted, what we did for Fox is literally set up a private 5G network. We gave them 5G-enabled belt packs. And the belt packs, they were able to, basically do push to talk over this private 5G network. But what was really interesting is we gave the contestants cameras, 5G-enabled cameras, and basically cell phones. And so they were able to shoot their own video as they're out in the field of play. We were able to set up cameras, 5G-enabled cameras on trees. And then we were able to use AI to help us track the contestants. And why is it so interesting? Because with all these cameras that we're bringing in over this private 5G environment, we were able to literally ask the AI engine what was happening with the players. What was going on with them? Did they do anything overnight? And Fox loved it because it meant that they didn't have to have as many people on site trying to track, a camera crew with which each talent. They were able to let the contestants go out with these devices and basically roam the area with AI on site. We developed a location tracking tool on site. And these are things that would have taken months, to deliver. Again, because you're in the middle of a wooded area, in the middle of, nowhere, Canada, in a forest.
That's actually really interesting because we've heard about private networks, or we've talked to folks using private networks, say, in remote mining operations. So this is kind of a new twist on that capability. Well, one of the things you talked about, personalization in the sense of the Super Bowl context, where everyone is now using more traffic in order to have their own kind of curated experience while they're at the venue. Is there an example that you have of the digital twin section? Because we want to make sure that we are compliant with the title.
Yeah, the digital twin side of the venue space is actually really important. Part of the process that Verizon goes through from a technical assessment standpoint is we actually create a digital twin of the entire technology environment inside of a venue as we go to assess and learn. And then we use that digital twin when the venue then goes into production to help us troubleshoot, help us create awareness, help us do everything around it. And one of the things that you see, and again, this goes back to me being one of these AI fanboys, right? It's ridiculous now. But it really goes back to this idea that you can now ask a model that's sitting there questions that you never thought you would ask, like, hey, if I take the security camera footage and I take Slack channels and I am telling the model to watch if the line gets longer than about 8 people, to then send a Slack message out to let's say the ticketing folks that they need to add more people to the front turnstiles or the ticketing gates. or you need to apply more security somewhere where you see a group of people gathering, all of a sudden you are doing that in a real-time environment, affecting the venue, affecting people's experiences. And it's pretty incredible and dramatic how this is all playing out, really in real time.
Yeah, I'm gratified to hear it because once again, we think cognitive analytics and AI are a really big deal together because the camera is a single source of truth where you're able to say, not just a sensor tripped, but okay, we saw that in a warehouse, a forklift backed into the refrigeration unit and there's now steam coming out of that unit. So it isn't just an alert, but it's able to provide, AI could then say, okay, this is where some incident happened that triggered a sensor, and here's the video, and a human today, tomorrow it may be all automated, can then say, okay, this is what we need. Similarly in security, it can show some footage to say there's something suspicious happening today. A security guard can look at it and say, no, it's all right, someone's tying their shoes, versus this is potentially something where we need to investigate.
And I want to mention, this is a great place to mention, Verizon puts out a report for the industry. I want you to really think about this as a report for the industry. It's called the DBIR. And this DBIR is a security report on what's happening. And what makes this DBIR report so interesting, and I'll give what I think is super interesting about this year's report, is it actually takes into consideration how people are using AI to build tools to attack you. Now, that's super compelling to me, because when I learned that we are putting out this report right now, and I could go, that our team had worked across the entire kind of AI industry to absorb and understand how, because if you're a hacker, the first place you're going to go is to AI and say, hey, go create me a set of tools that I can go use to attack something. We all saw what happened with Mythos. We all are, kind of seeing this play out. But I want to know, what are people feeding it? And I want to understand that. So this report in particular, this year, it's normally a phenomenal report and a great read. But this year in particular, I would urge you to go download that report and read that section that specifically talks about that, because it's in there and I think it's really compelling.
Yeah, and funny thing, again, in the model that Ronan showed earlier, we actually have a lot of back-end calculations, and one of them is a line item for what we call unauthorized traffic, basically stuff that is not coming out of your official corporate or consumer kinds of services, but something that someone's doing on their own, whether it's kind of gray area or it's something that's that has more.
Well, we call it, it's greater than human scale, right? We're, this was a term, in my opinion, kind of from last year, but this greater than human scale is this idea that I don't care how many people you throw at this issue. You can, and security is a perfect example of that. You can throw 300, you can throw 1,000, it doesn't matter. You need AI to now help you solve these true business issues that you're not going to be able to scale. So why do that? Find the efficiency that these tools are going to give you. And if the tools don't exist, think about what it would take for you to develop them. It's very approachable from that standpoint. Yes, we're not all experts for sure, but there's definitely places for us all to learn and take our own journey with it.
Yeah, and Josh, my last question for you today is looking ahead, and I usually would say looking ahead over the 2-year horizon, but stuff is moving so fast that I'd say, okay, the next 12 months, given the accelerated pace of everything that's happening today, what are 2 big kind of AI areas that are attracting your interest right now?
Okay, so I'm super interested. You guys are going to laugh. So we all were like, 5G, 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 can we just calm down about the 5G? And then AI came along and we didn't have to worry about saying 5G would basically create chuckles in an audience every time you'd say 5G. So 6G. Now, I say 6G because of the sensing aspect, I see some chuckles out there. The sensing aspect of 6G. Listen, what's about to happen with fiber sensing and some of the sensing capability when paired with AI and the ability to make a prediction about somebody like a backhoe digging near a piece of fiber. There's a lot of standards work. Part of my role is also to work on standards. So there is some great standards work happening right now around fiber sensing and 6G sensing. And these two things I think are super interesting because I can sit up here and tell you I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know, but I know that as a technologist, as an engineer, I want to have primary information. I want to be able to measure something down and know that I've got the measurement, accuracy and precision spot on. But when you start to think that a piece of fiber could detect somebody digging near it, and wait for it, detect the direction that it's coming from, you start to go, okay, wait a second, wow, okay, that's super interesting. All of a sudden, I'm thinking about fiber, I'm thinking about RF, in a new way. I loved my learning around spectral multiplexing. I had this discovery moment a week ago around spectral multiplexing. Myself, I'm always trying to learn around this idea. So I spent my entire career, in the RF side of the world, just very interested in RF, in broadcast, in cellular, in all kinds of transmission. And I learned last week that you could transmit different signals, same signal, it wouldn't matter, but you can transmit multiple signals on the same frequency at the same time. Right? So, hey, did I know about satellite and you could do horizontal and vertical polarization and that was really cool? Yeah, but I never understood that your cell phone, this technology around spatial multiplexing is really going to be a game changer. And so when you think about, these kind of what's happening with 6G, what's happening with spatial multiplexing, what's happening with fiber sensing, and the fact that we don't know all the ways that it's going to get utilized, that's what really makes me truly excited.
That's terrific. Well, Josh, thanks so much. And thank you all for your time and attention today. Really appreciate your...
Hopefully we didn't bore you guys. I don't see anybody fall asleep out there yet. So
yep. I hope that we hit all of the customer experience high notes that you were looking for. If not, Josh is available at the show. I'll be around as well. So thank you again for your time.
Thanks.